Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order this Committee of the Whole meeting of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores and welcome everybody to the Council chambers this evening. I'm glad I'm entertaining you already. Anyway, welcome everybody, and we're glad that you're here. Second item is disclosures of pecuniary interest and nature thereof. I'll ask any member if you have a pecuniary interest of any nature to declare at this time. Seeing none, of course, you can declare one any time if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda. We have no open forum. So that takes us on to delegations, and we have two delegations on the agenda this evening. And I'll just remind both delegations before we get started that our delegations are 10 minutes in length. And should you use up that time, I will give you just a gentle reminder at the 10-minute mark and ask you to wrap it up, and I'm sure that won't be a problem. So with that, I'll call up our first delegation, and it's Cheryl Cottrell and Carol Renchek, who are the co-chairs of the Huron Shores Hospice. Ms. Cottrell, Ms. Renchek, the floor is yours. You just push the button on the thing there to liven your mic up, the blue button. There you go.
Okay. Is it good? Is it good? Okay. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to come and share with you some great news about our Huron Shores Hospice. My name is Carol Renchek, and this is Cheryl Cottrell, and we are the co-chairs of the Board of Directors, which operates our community one-bed residential hospice in Tiverton. First, I would like to give you a little background on Huron Shores Hospice. We operate our residential hospice suite within Tiverton Park Manor. Our residential hospice provides the residents of South Bruce County with compassionate care and comfort in a home-like setting while supporting family and friends who can stay with their loved one. The South Bruce County population of individuals over 50 years of age is 42.3%, or 9 percentage points higher than the Ontario average. 280,000 Canadians die every year, and it is estimated that by the year 2036, there will be 3.3 million people over the age of 80. This is why residential hospice is so important in our community. Our model of care is person-centered, meaning that we carry out the wishes of the residents with their care and comfort in mind. We partner with Tiverton Park Manor and pay rent with extended care, plus an additional cost for palliative care when the bed is being used. This provides us with 24/7 RN, RPN, and PSW care, along with laundry services, food services, and cleaning in the suite. And we could not be happier with the comfort and care that our residents and their families receive from the staff at the Manor. We also partner with the VON on the recruitment of our Comfort Care volunteers, who after training through St. Joseph's in London come in for 4-hour shifts, filling 12 hours during the day, 7 days a week. The nighttime care is done by a PSW dedicated to our resident, so the family who may be staying with them can get some much-needed rest. We employ one part-time hospice coordinator, Kathy Herbert, who is responsible for scheduling and managing the 100 volunteers who help make Huron Shores Hospice work and to make sure our families are receiving the care and comfort they wish to have. Kathy also looks over some administrative duties as well. Our suite is set up with a kitchenette, a small sitting area for the family, a hospital bed, a hospital table, a night table, a sleeping lift chair, and a TV in the residence room. Around the corner of the residence space is a queen-size bed, a night table, a comfortable chair for reading, a TV with DVD player, and a children's zone for the younger visitors. Family and friends are encouraged to stay with their loved one in the suite, and the family is looked after as a unit, meaning we provide care and comfort for everyone, not just the resident. We have representation on our board of directors from Kincardine, Lucknow, Port Elgin, Ripley, Southampton, and Tiverton, which encompasses our catchment area. In Saugeen Shores, your representatives are myself, Kathy Sprague, and Judy Rich. Referrals come to us from family doctors, community nurses, and from families themselves. Our medical director, Dr. Damien Gunaratna, will visit potential residents in their homes and do the assessment. We usually admit residents when they are about 2 weeks from the end of life, a time that gets very, very difficult for family members to care for. We incorporated as a charitable not-for-profit in September of 2016, after which fundraising geared up to provide 2 years of operational expenses and the capital needed to furnish and equip the suite. We opened the door to our first resident in May of last year. Excuse me. We have a 3-phase business plan. The first was to open a 1-bed, which has been accomplished. In 2020, we hope to achieve our second phase to open an additional bed. down the road, and our third phase would be to open a standalone residential hospice with 4 beds when there has been a significant change in funding from the Ontario government. At present, our residential hospice receives no funding from the provincial government, and we are 100% community funded. We have just received a $25,000 grant from the federal government that will allow us to add 3 new programs that will be added in our municipality. The first one will be offering grief support beginning later this year. There is a gap in this service in our community, and we have 3 fully trained facilitators who are going to be offering 2 group sessions per year in Port Elgin and Southampton, as well as 2 sessions in Urin, Kinloss, and Kincardine. Secondly, we will begin hosting death cafes in each of the communities we serve. At a death cafe, people drink tea or coffee, have cake, and discuss death. One aim is to normalize the conversation, helping people be more comfortable to have what they view as difficult conversations with their family and friends around planning. And thirdly, we will be hosting education sessions around death and dying, bringing in experts to discuss topics that trend during our death cafes. We will also be offering end-of-life doula services this year, which has been self-funded. Our annual budget for our residential hospice is $205,000, which must be all fundraised within our community. There is no cost to the family to stay in the suite. We do maintain 2 years of operating expenses in the bank, and our estimated annual budget for a second bed will be $98,000, bringing the total budget that will be needed for the 2 beds to $303,000. We currently have 80% of the $212,000 needed to open the second bed. An additional $40,000 must be fundraised to reach our goal of 2 years of operating expenses in the bank and capital to equip and furnish the suite. We could use your help to achieve our second phase goal. We would appreciate any financial help you can provide. We invite you to participate in our Hike for Hospice, which is held in May, and our upcoming Handbags for Hospice event, which will be held on September 19th. We also would appreciate if you could spread the word about our community hospice to family and friends, sign up to volunteer, or personally donate through our website or memorial donations. We know that a second bed will better serve this area. To date, we have had 6 residents die waiting for this. We have served 11 residents, and approximately 20% of those residents have lived in Saugeen Shores. We are increasing awareness of our services by meeting with your local doctors and offering tours of the suite so that they can see firsthand the care and comfort we would provide for their patients. We would like to extend the same invitation to all of you. If you would like to come to Tiverton to tour the suite, we'd be happy to show you what we have accomplished, of course at a time when the suite is vacant. We have had great support from the businesses and individuals in your municipality, and we very I'll leave you just with a couple of testimonials from our families. First family wrote, I feel that our community is extremely fortunate to have such a warm, comforting residents such as your The world is a better place because of the commitment from your family wrote, thank you so much for all the care and personal time you give to all who use your service. Each of you are angels, and your touch goes further. Please look for us on our social media and on our website, yourinsurancehospice.ca, where we do our best to provide updates about our progress and post information which is very valuable to our community. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you tonight, and if you have any questions, we can answer them. We also have left each of you brochure about our hospice. Contact information is on the back. So thank you again for your time, and if you have any questions.
Great, thank you very much. I'll ask if there's questions from members of the committee. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Carol and Cheryl, I had an opportunity to attend the Federal New Horizons funding announcement earlier this month, and I had an opportunity to meet and engage with staff and volunteers and board members such as yourselves. As a newly elected member of this council, I'm continually astonished by the fantastic group of dedicated individuals, both in this community and outside of it, who volunteer their time to commitments such as this for great events and great causes. Huron Hospice is certainly no exception, with a group of dedicated individuals who will no doubt help to normalize the conversations in our community about death and dying. I wish you much success in that endeavor, and I would encourage, I believe I saw on your website, participants from Saugeen Shores for a June 3rd focus group as well. So I hope that we have members of our community that engage in that as well. So thank you so much for all that you're doing.
Thank you. Further questions or comments from committee members? The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Quick comment, Mr. Mayor, and I just want to thank you, Carol and Cheryl, and for all the great work you do. And for any of us, or any of you who have been to the Chapman House in Owen Sound, you soon realize that the death and dying with dignity is such an important service that we need to have available close to our community, and that comes with a cost. But I would hope, Mr. Mayor, that perhaps staff could, come back at a future meeting to talk about the requests we have before us this evening. I think it was, I'm not sure it was the 40,000 or any amount for that matter, but I'm hoping that we might be able to hear back from staff in the future, Mr. Mayor. I know our budget's coming up another 4, 5, 6 months from now, but this is something that we certainly, to offer this kind of service right here in Saugeen Shores would be a whole lot more than $40,000 a year. So I think by adding a second bed and eventually getting to 4 beds is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So thank you for all your great work.
Thank you.
Sure. To further questions or comments from members of the committee? I'll just say again, thanks very much for coming in this evening. This is one of those services that you don't think much about until you need it. And when you need it, you really need it. So it's great that we have folks like you. I mean, the idea that this is 100% locally funded, locally fundraised, and I was at the Hike for Hospice in Port Elgin a couple of weeks ago, and there's so much support for it. But there needs to be, because it doesn't happen without all that support. And it's also something that kind of goes by the wayside a little bit in Saugeen Shores, because it's not right here in Saugeen Shores. And it's complicated, and it's very difficult to get something like that going in every community. So people in our community need to, I think, be made extra aware that our hospices, all of our hospice organizations exist in the region, and to focus on that as a service and to support it through fundraising and to support your fundraising efforts. So thanks for coming in and reminding us of that, and I know that everybody around this table will be out reminding people in the community about that as well. So thank you very much. So that moves us on then to our second delegation, and that will be from Natalie Robitaille and Duncan McCallum, although Duncan says he's going to remain silent on this one. So we're going to just invite Natalie up this evening, and she's going to here to talk to us about the Bruce County Playhouse update. Natalie.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, I have a big enough mouth for the both of us, so I'm going to be here by myself. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Charbonneau and council members. My name is Natalie Robitaille, and I'm the Artistic Director of Bruce County Playhouse, a professional summer theater now operating out of the Southampton Town Hall. And don't worry, I'm actually not here asking for money. I'm just giving you an update. And I have to say right now, wow, I've performed for thousands of people, and I've even improvised songs, and I'm terrified at this moment. So please forgive me if my hands shake as I go. All right, here we go. On the 25th of January, 2016, an agreement was approved by Town Council allowing Bruce County Playhouse the use of the Southampton Town Hall during the summer months for theatrical performances. This was an exciting moment for the Bruce County Playhouse. We were welcomed into your vision of enhancing the programming and usage of the Town Hall in order to sustain the sense of civic pride and help bring an underused space back to life and fulfill community aspirations of a vibrant hub in the center of Southampton. And for that, we thank you. I'm here this evening to proudly announce that Bruce County Playhouse is now celebrating its 5th anniversary. We are very excited by this year's lineup and would like to invite everyone to join us this summer for a season of theater suitable for the whole family. We would also like to invite all council members to our 5th year celebration by offering 2 tickets to our opening night gala on June 27th. As part of our 2019 summer season, we'll be producing the following productions: The Complete Works of William Shakespeare, Abridged, by Daniel Singer, Jess Winfield, and Adam Long. Now, in this universally acclaimed show, 3 actors managed to compress every single Shakespeare play in about an hour and 40 minutes of ridiculousness. Like they even do one of the tragedies as a football game, just to give you an example. And that runs from June 27th to July 13th. On July 16th, 17th, and 18th, the nearly world-famous Duffelbag Theatre will be returning once again after last summer's sold-out performances. They'll be performing Robin Hood, Cinderella, and the 3 Little Pigs. I agree. The following week, Our first musical theater production takes stage from July 25th to August 10th. For our inaugural musical theater production, we'll be producing Nonsense by Dan Goggin. Now, Nonsense is a hilarious spoof about the misadventures of 5 nuns as they try to manage a fundraiser after the rest of the nuns sadly died from botulism after eating vichyssoise prepared by Sister Julia. Thus, the remaining nuns stage a talent show in order to raise the necessary funds to bury the rest of the dearly departed sisters that are in the freezer. So then we end our season with the critically acclaimed Canadian classic play, The Jar Boy by Michael Healy, where 3 lives are irrevocably altered when a Toronto-based actor comes to stay with the 2 farmers in order to gather stories about rural life and make a play about it. But as art attempts to imitate life, the line between truth and fiction is crossed as we learn about the sacrifices people will make in the name of friendship. From our modest first year where we produced 1 play in Port Elgin, to our move to the Southampton Town Hall, to our growth to a full summer season including a musical, 2 plays, and a family series, we're extremely proud of our accomplishments in the past 5 years. We're also incredibly thankful to the town, to the community of Saugeen Shores and its over 48 businesses that advertise in our program, as well as our major supporters, Bruce Power, the Power Workers Union, Remax Saugeen Team, the Southampton Residents Association, the Southampton Rotary, many family and individual donations, as well as the dozens of volunteers that help run our front of house during the summer months. We thank them all for their ongoing support. Without their help, we'd not be where we are today or be able to do what we do, and we're incredibly thankful. In turn, it's our fervent hope to be able to contribute back to the community, not only through the production of quality theater, but also by keeping our ticket costs down so that everyone has a chance to enjoy theater, or by bringing popular groups like Duffel Bag Theater in so that young families don't need to travel to big cities or other areas in order to be able to experience quality entertainment, or by donating tickets to local groups for their silent auctions and helping them achieve their fundraising goals. There are many other ways in which we contribute to the local economy. Every year, we work to increase our audience size. Last summer, close to 3,000 people attended our performances, a number we hope to surpass this summer with the addition of our 3rd show, our musical Nonsense. This influx, in our opinion, can only invigorate the economic potential for local businesses and restaurants as these people have dinner, get ice cream, walk down the main street before entering the town hall for the performance. We also have created some successful partnerships within the community and the surrounding areas. For example, our successful dinner and a show package with the Elk and Finch in Southampton, our displaying of local artist paintings and photography in the town hall during the summer months, not to mention the arrival of our first ever bus tour last summer for a matinee performance of the 39 Steps. With the growth of our company has also come more summer job opportunities. This summer, Bruce County Playhouse will have hired 5 local people to work in our summer productions. And in our ongoing goal to foster young talent, we're proud to announce that for the 3rd time in our 5-year history, we've received an application from a local theater arts student asking for a co-op, and we're happy to welcome Gracienne Swarbrick to the team. For those of you who don't know Gracienne, she's a firecracker, really, but she is a very dedicated local high school student with post-secondary plans of enrolling in voice and music theater programs. Therefore, I decided to cast her in our production of Nonsense as the novice Sister Mary Leo. I think it's going to be an experience that will just be invaluable to her to be able to work with professional artists that are coming from Toronto. She'll have that experience as she heads off next year to music theater school. Another of our main goals is to produce quality professional summer theater for everyone in Saugeen Shores and the surrounding areas to enjoy, and to build Bruce County Playhouse to the same standards as other professional summer theaters in Ontario. We have had some wonderful successes with our productions and have been encouraged by the many positive Facebook posts and feedback from our audiences. I've included some examples in my written presentation, but for the sake of time, I won't read them this evening. I hope that's okay. I'd like to take a moment to share with you the fact that Bruce County Playhouse is not only growing within the community and the surrounding areas, but it's also growing throughout the theater industry. Playwrights have started sending us scripts of their new plays in the hopes that we'll premiere them. Really well-known Toronto talent agencies are contacting us about their actors, and this year we received over 450 submissions from actors in the Toronto area wanting to come and audition for our theater company. It's amazing. The word is getting out that we are a very good, hardworking young company worth joining for the summer. Although the beach has something to do with it too, I'm sure. And the actors that we have coming this summer are prominent performers from the Canadian stage, including the Stratford Festival, the Shaw Festival, and other well-known theaters across Canada, as well as film and television. We have an actor that's in Rain right now coming this summer, so we're very excited about that. And looking towards the future, we'd like to work towards further developing relationships and partnerships within the community, the creation of a summer young company for school-aged children and young adults, as well as creating more comfortable seating in the town hall to further enhance our patrons' enjoyment of our productions. Whereas we are growing in the right direction, we still have a long way to go in reaching our goals, and with the coming cuts to arts funding, live theatre is once again in jeopardy. As we move forward, I'd ask the Council, please recognize our efforts and what we are attempting to bring to this community and continue their support of live theatre in our area. For as the Canada Council for the Arts so aptly put, arts and cultural activities are at the heart of communities. They make communities more attractive places to live. They help bring a community to life. They define a community's unique characteristics. They attract tourists, and they help communities compete economically around the world. I thank you for your time, and I hope to see you at the theatre. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Questions or comments for Natalie from members of the committee? Councillor Mayette.
Natalie, thanks a lot for coming. Enjoyed it, having not experienced Playhouse Theatre very much up until that point. Forward to performances this summer.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for telling everyone.
Further comments or questions from members? Councillor Grace.
Thank you. Thank you. We do have a lot of members of our board of directors that are here this evening. This is our new board, so thank you very much. And Patty, their general manager, is here too. So we thank you. Everyone works really hard, so thank you very much.
Would you introduce us to the members of your board? Or
Maybe.
would they introduce themselves, maybe?
Yes.
They could introduce themselves.
The president of our board is Mr. Dunk McCallum. And we have Jamie Stiles, board member. We have Maureen Simpson, board member, and Dale Robinette, board member, and Patty Underwood as our general manager.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there further questions from members of the committee? I think, well, thanks very much for coming in, Natalie. We really appreciate hearing about your season, and congratulations on 5 years. It's hard to believe that it's been 5 years since we first did that agreement with you, but it's been very successful, increasingly successful every year, and I'm really looking forward to another great season. And frankly, if you see no other show anywhere, or on television, on stage, or anywhere else this summer, see Nonsense. I had the privilege of stage managing Nonsense both here in Port Elgin and at the Owen Sound Little Theatre a couple of times, and that's one of the best shows there is. So that's going to be a huge hit. There's going to be a lot of people come see that. I think you're going to blow through your 3,000 people without much trouble on that one.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that moves us then. We have no public meetings. That moves us on to reports of municipal officers, and we'll move down to 7.3, infrastructure and development. And the first staff report is the film plastic pilot project. That's a good alliteration, and we'll turn it over to the Director of Infrastructure and Development for the report.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Over my years here, I've heard many times the desire to be able to recycle grocery bags and the desire to recycle more items than what we put in our blue box currently. So when I was in Hanover looking at the styrofoam densifier, I saw this program that they have there that they use at a company called Trash Taxi. It's a big yellow bin. You put your plastic film in it, they take it away. As the report says, it's about $150 every time they empty the bin. We're looking at spending about $3,600 this year to try a pilot program. We propose to put the bins at where we currently collect cardboard, so one at the Southampton landfill site and one at the dog park in Port Elgin. This program is self-governed in that we need the residents to ensure that they're not putting contaminated material in, so we'll work on signage and education news releases to get this program going, and with your support we'd like to try to fund this out of the operating as much as we can, but if that goes over budget, then it'll be through the landfill expansion reserve, which I would justify as taking this stuff out of the landfill helps to extend the life of the landfill.
Thank you. I'll read the recommendation, then we can take any questions or comments. It's recommended that Council direct staff to proceed with a pilot project to collect film plastics at the Southampton landfill site and Port Elgin recycling depot with funding out of the waste diversion item in the operating budget and expansion reserve, if necessary. Questions or comments from members of the committee? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the director for this is a very exciting project. I think it's wonderful that we're exploring doing it. One of the things in the report that's worth pointing out is that if this is successful, it could divert up to 7,000 kilograms of waste from our landfill, and with our landfill available space decreasing every year, this is really significant. And I was actually talking to Amanda about this a little bit this afternoon, and one of the things that she was mentioning that she did not include in terms of the cost here of the $3,600 a year is the sort of difficult to quantify cost. The amount of time that our employees spend, collecting plastic bags that are rolling around the landfill, and that doesn't even include the cost to our community where we see these kinds of plastics polluting our ditches and other pieces of our environment. So I will be supporting this. I think it's a great project, and I hope our community can get behind it. Thanks.
You further questions or comments from committee members? Councillor Schreider.
Thank you, and through you, I just wanted to say thank you to Amanda for establishing this initiative, because I think it's a great thing. It's a small amount of money in order to increase our life cycle of the landfill site. So thank you very much for that, and I'll definitely be supporting it as well. Thank you.
Further questions, comments? Oh, Councillor Mayat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo the sentiments of my two fellow councillors that it's a great idea, and it makes all sorts of environmental sense, especially when we hear about the seas of plastic that are floating around our oceans, and if we can take any bit of plastic out of the environment, then I'm fully supportive of that. One question is, sort of the backbone of a recycling program is, I visit my father lives in Toronto, and they have bins for each and every of their recycling, because obviously Toronto pays a lot more for their trash disposal than because they don't have their own landfill site. Do you envision any point in time where we would have a bin similar to the blue bin that would be specific for film plastics, or would we rely on people to set up their own personal bins, and try and separate it at source? That's kind of the key to making these things work, I think.
Thank you. And through you, right now the province is working on producer responsibility for recycling. So how that's going to work out is really up in the air. They're looking at taking away from this stewardship program, and they're calling it REPA now, and that group will sort of dictate how this happens. So Pepsi and Loblaws and Lever will be responsible for paying how their product will be recycled in the future. So their packaging may change, because if they're responsible for all that film packaging, there may be that way. Curbside pickup is for sure one of the big pieces of that, so that may come into effect. We're still a small market when it comes to that, very windy, so we have to take a few more things into consideration. But as you know, putting it to the curb is the best way to get it recycled compared to having to drive to a depot. So it would be the ideal.
I envision a time when there would be a plastic recyclable container, recyclable as a container that's made out of the recycled plastic that we turned in, kind of full cycle it, right?
Further comments from committee members? Seeing none, you've heard the recommendation. All in favor? That's carried. So that moves us then on to item 2, staff report on Bill 108, More Homes, More Choices Act 2019, and the Director of Infrastructure and Development.
Thank you, and through you. Staff wish to provide formal comments back to the province on this bill, but we would like the support of council with those comments. We feel that many of these changes were designed to address issues in the GTA, but they're going to be felt throughout Saugeen Shores and many small municipalities in the province. This bill is intended to stimulate construction of affordable units, but we don't see that that is going to be the outcome, especially here in Saugeen Shores. We do believe it will put time and money back into the developer's option, so there is the potential for that to be trickled down. We also feel that the bill has a lot of unclear sections, and most of what they're proposing is going to add administrative burden onto us as a municipality. It also has the potential to cause cash flow concerns when you're not collecting DCs until after occupancy, but they're being assessed at time of draft plan. If you think about how long it takes our subdivisions to build out 100 homes a year, it can be a big difference in the amount of money we're collecting in the time. So we want to put comments through to that effect and include ones about needing more information before we could properly comment on how we would implement these changes. In the meantime, we'll send those comments along with a letter that Jay already authored and sent in.
Thank you, and just remind the committee that there is a draft motion in communications petitions for committee of whole action, which would provide a political communication in addition to this communication from our administration. So we can, if we care to, respond in a two-pronged way. Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Director. Amanda, I read your report, and it's very well analyzed. The sections of Bill 108 that are specific to the development charges and the building and construction are very well laid out, and you make some very good points, and I support every one of them. Further on in the agenda, as was alluded to by the Mayor, there is a draft motion that seeks to outright repeal or to cancel Bill 108. And if you read Bill 108, it covers a broad spectrum of issues, and this only being one of them. It has Endangered Species Act, and it has natural resources implications. So I would prefer to see what you're endorsing, which is to extract the applicable causes that are going to negatively affect us, rather than endorsing a broad motion that would seek to cancel everything in that bill, because, like I said, there's lots of things in there that may have positive ramifications, and we don't want to toss out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak.
Important to be clear, though, that the report from the administration is not an exhaustive examination of the pieces of that bill which will likely have ramifications for municipalities. This is an examination of the Planning Act and development charges issues, but there's certainly changes in Bill 108 affecting conservation authorities, for example, which could very well have trickle-down effects on us and other things as well. So I don't know at what point you saw off and say we don't support the bill, but there are a number of additional, only to make the point, there are additional things beyond this examination in the bill that may be of a cause to concern that we haven't, or our administration hasn't examined. We'll move to Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of questions. I'm not sure if, I just wanted to clarify that I was reading certain things correctly from your understanding. Under the Development Charges Act, am I right in saying that they proposed changes would exclude using development charges for parks and recreation and libraries?
That's correct. They are looking at taking out what they refer to as soft services, and so the DCs you could collect would be more engineering-based things. They have added waste diversion in, but they took landfill land out. That's the one that I found the most odd, but parks and recreational facilities would now be looked to be funded out of a community benefits bylaw, so we would have to pass a separate bylaw to have those collected through fees at building permit stage.
Okay. My next question is about I did have a question about the landfill, but you confirmed that. With regard to the LPAT Act and talking about allowing new evidence to be presented in the proposed changes, I couldn't find this, but I wondered if you knew anything about the timeline of new evidence. I mean, is there some kind of restriction that you know about in terms of new evidence might be submitted if there was some kind of technological development, that technological information that wasn't available at the time of the initial hearing? Did you see any, was there any qualifying information on that?
I didn't see that, but I know in the old OMB era there was time limits on new information, so I can check to see what that and get back to you.
Okay, and then my last question is about the letter that Jay Posner sent on behalf of the municipality in January. Do you know if Jay has received a response from the ministry to his letter?
Through you know he hasn't received a response yet.
Thank you.
Further comments or questions from committee members? The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be supporting this recommendation. Thank you for the report, Man and Jay. The letter's well done to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. One troublesome paragraph in here that strikes a nerve with me, and I have no idea why the province of Ontario would want to dictate this to municipalities, is about limiting the amount of parkland dedication that's created through a housing development. Who knows better, Mr. Mayor, than local municipalities what our needs are for parkland in our community? Who knows better than municipalities? And for the province of Ontario through Bill 108 to dictate to us how much parkland we may be restricted to or allowed to is troublesome. And I hope that municipalities across the province of Ontario rise to the occasion and make themselves heard, because this particular section is wrong, in my view, very wrong. And we're getting some higher density areas now being constructed in the municipalities, not only here but across the province, which creates a higher need for parkland, and they want to lower the amount of parkland dedication. It's just wrong, and it's troublesome. So I'll be supporting the recommendation, and I thank you for the report, Amanda.
Further questions from committee members? Yeah, I will also be supporting the recommendation. The most troubling change for me, there are some good things about the bill, particularly the impetus to bring together all those charges into one predictable charge, development charges, and all those things. I think that's not a bad idea. I think looking at us from the outside, sometimes folks get hit by this thing after this thing after this thing, and having one thing that you can predict and understand is smart. And so it's not an entirely bad thing, but this change back to the OMB style of hearings, returning to the de novo basis for hearings, and also inserting a third level of planning. They can both disregard the local planning documents, official plan, zoning bylaws, as well as the provincial policy statement, and they've introduced this idea of a third way, another thing determined from on high, I don't know, by some panelist on the LPAT, that this is how you're going to do it in your community. That's even worse, frankly, than the OMP. The LPAT wasn't perfect. There's no question about that, but it was an improvement over the OMB. It emphasized and re-established the importance of local decision making over local planning decisions. And nobody in Queen's Park will make as good a decision about how to plan your community as the people who live in the community will make. It's and that seems like a for the people kind of thing to me. So it seems it just doesn't make sense, even with the branding of the government. So I think that we ought to very much oppose those changes, I think, for the reasons I've stipulated. So I'm neglected to read the recommendation, so I will read it, and then we can take the vote. It's recommended that Council endorse the comments outlined regarding Bill 108, and that the comments be forwarded to Huron-Bruce MPP Lisa Thompson and the Ministry of Municipal Affairs prior to June 1st, 2019. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. So that moves us then on to item 3, a staff report on the subdivision, Barry's construction, Blue Water Phase 5, stages 2A and 2B, the Director of Infrastructure and Development.
Thank you, and through you, these are the vacant lands located west of Bruce Street that have been zoned and draft plan approved. Barry's did pre-servicing this fall, and it is now paved, and they're looking at doing the formal subdivision agreement that will allow building permits to be done, so we recommend approval of the agreement.
Thank you. It's recommended that Council pass a bylaw to enter into a subdivision agreement with Barry's Construction and Insulation Limited for Phase 5, Stages 2A and 2B of the Blue Water subdivision. Questions, comments from committee members? The Vice Deputy Mayor.
I had a quick question to you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know whether the developer or Mandy want to answer this question, but slight enlargement of the existing parkland block. I just wondering how those lands became available. We're adding to the Y Daycare Center parklands to the south, I believe. How did those lands become available? What size of parcel of land are we adding to the existing parkland we have available at the Y Daycare Center lands? I refer to in that area. What are we adding? How does it become available?
Sorry, I'm not following. There is no parkland dedication on this part of the development.
No, I realize there isn't. No, I realize there isn't. But in the report, it states that slight enlargement of the existing parkland will be added to the existing parkland, a slight piece, a small piece. I don't know what that small piece is. It's in the report where it reads the parkland will be enlarged slightly. Pardon me?
I'm not sure what the slight enlargement around the existing parkland would be, but I believe, or I would guess, it's just sort of when you do the lots and massage it out from the draft plan to the registered plan. That would be
That's
all.
fine. It's not. I know we have 7 acres of parkland there, and it was from 15, 20 years ago. Mayor Pose, I think, dedicated those lands long ago, and I just see we're adding to it, and I didn't know whether the developer was granting us some extra lands and how much that 7 acres is growing to. That's all.
No, sorry, I don't know that answer, but I do know that that park, there's a 2.8 hectare park surrounding the daycare that's there now.
Oh, okay.
Any further questions or comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, you've heard the recommendation. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, that moves us on then to 7.4, Protective Services. And the first staff report is on the adoption of the 2019 Fleet Efficiency Plan and the Director of Protective Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The town delivers many services to its residents and visitors. To do so, several vehicles are required to maintain a high level of service. In 2019, the 2019 Fleet Efficiency Plan was created by staff to find efficiencies in our operations and identify synergies between service areas. While much work has been done in 2019 to reduce capital costs and operational expenses, much more work lies ahead for the committee to find efficiencies and further reduce both operating and capital related expenses. Once adopted by Council, the 2019 Fleet Efficiency Plan will become a cornerstone of the town's commitment to cost-effective operating, maintaining, and replacing our vehicle assets. The 34 initiatives or opportunities identified in the plan are highly dependent on the viability of these actions, timeframes, and other implementation considerations. Progress and updates will be communicated to Council annually by means of an annual fleet assessment and needs report. This detailed report will be included in the capital budget background information each year to keep Council informed of the successes and of the vehicle assignments and future needs.
Thank you. The recommendation is that Council adopts the 2019 Fleet Efficiency Plan for Saugeen Shores and authorizes the Fleet Committee to implement cost-saving initiatives as they are identified. Questions or comments from members of the committee? Councillor Schreier.
And thank you through you. Very exciting. Phil, congratulations to you and the subcommittee that was formed for this. Two of my favorite comments in your report is no consulting fees or development expenses, that it was all done in-house, which is fantastic. And the other thing is that the financial impact is future cost savings. So I think that that's just absolutely excellent. So congratulations to you guys. Right now, just a question, right now, does the police and the fire equipment receive repairs and maintenance from our mechanics in-house?
No, they don't. We have 2 excellent mechanics and 2 very well-equipped shops that look after community services and public works vehicles, but police and fire are sourced out to local businesses.
and that will continue even after this plan is implemented, or will we see that those repairs happen in-house with our mechanics?
It's one of the opportunities identified in the report, and we want to evaluate whether there are cost savings there. So if it puts us at the tipping point where an addition to the shops are needed or additional staff people to maintain them,
Right.
it might not be cost effective. So we really want to analyze 5 years of costs and see if there are savings to be had or not.
Okay. And then my final question, if I may, is one of the goals or objectives as well was to standardize the vehicles. So I guess my question then, does that mean that, for example, if you have Dodge, you only want to buy Dodge, or we'd still be following our procurement policy as well?
We hope to update the procurement policy to allow a little more flexibility and look at more of a total cost of ownership model.
Yep.
So in the municipal sector, we buy the lowest tender all the time, and then we're surprised when at the end of life we don't get very much value for that asset. So we want to take a more of a total cost of ownership approach to that asset in the future, and we might not always recommend the lowest priced vehicle. To your question specifically, we do believe there's advantages to stocking one oil filter instead of 7 different types of oil filters for operational expenses.
Very good. Thank you.
Further questions or comments from committee members? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. What you're describing is certainly something that we talked a lot about during budget deliberations in terms of a category management approach to procurement. I would love to see, and this is more of a comment, and then I do have a follow-up question, in subsequent budgets, are you anticipating the 2020 budget to have an enterprise view of fuel as well as an enterprise view of fleet?
Absolutely.
Great.
So in the total cost of ownership, it'll be the depreciation of the asset, but also how many hours are we using that asset, how many kilometers is it driving, how much is it costing us, and then we'll better know what our replacements should be on when we have an efficiency for each one of our assets. In the past, we haven't had that data available to us, but with the right software, we'll be able to give council a better idea of how efficient each one of our pieces of asset are.
Great. You segued nicely into my second question, which is regarding the software that was mentioned, the Fleet Management Information System. Is the implementation of the software complete at this point? Or?
No, it's not. We are still working with 2 different software providers to give us the software we need. And more importantly, it has to integrate with our existing software on fuel management, on asset management, and we want them all to talk easily together.
Okay, so it's mentioned that we can expect to see up to a 10% operational cost reduction with the implementation of that. We won't expect to see those savings in 2019. Is that correct?
No, we hope for future budgets.
Thank you.
Further questions from committee members? The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Phil. I just wanted to thank you for the report, and I enjoyed our conversation this afternoon. It was in depth and answered a lot of my questions, and 2.5 years in the making this report. I know we put a lot of work into it, and we really do need to know. I mean, it's the first time I've actually seen the 128 vehicles, piece of equipment in our inventory packaged together in one fleet management report, and it gave me a lot better appreciation too of the categories A, B, C, D, what vehicles being used for what purpose, and so I just, it really was appreciated, the good work you put into it, and we did a lot of work. Phil, I'm just wondering, one comment and a couple questions. In the 32 recommendations, nice to see a fair number of those implemented over the next 1 or 2, 3 years, try and drive the cost down for fleet. I think we're approaching around $700,000 a year in fleet replacement to capital reserve. One of the comments you mentioned was working with Bruce County, where they do the winter road patrol work, where they require additional vehicles in the wintertime, whereas our summer crews for grass cutting and washroom cleaning and so on and so forth, they require more fleet in summertime. So those vehicles those fleet of vehicles that are used in summer maybe sit in the wintertime. Maybe Bruce County can make good use of them for the road patrol or our own staff for winter patrol. So I'd like that one to be flushed out. I think it's a great idea, working with the county to see how there may be potentially some cost savings where they can use the fleet that we're not using in the wintertime and vice versa. So I think that's a really good thought. And I like a lot of the other recommendations in there. Try to drive that cost down if we can. The two questions I have is in terms of can you quantify yet? You're far enough into the process where you can quantify what extending vehicles by 1 year or 2 years or even 3 years means to the bottom line for that fleet reserve, what it would mean dollars wise. Have you got to that point in the planning process yet? And my second question is, I hear from a fair number of people in the community, a lot of white trucks driving around town, and perhaps I have a little more of an advantage, having been on the other side for a fair number of years, knowing where all those trucks are moving to and from. And we have a very high level of service in this community. And with high level of service brings getting those trucks out there as quickly as we can, and increases the need for additional fleet. But what do you say after working on this for 2.5 years now? I guess my question with you, Phil, would be, now that you've inventoried, what answer would you give to our taxpayers who say that our fleet size is too large? And what have you learned over the last 2.5 years? Because I think that's an important question for the community here. Is what have you learned about our fleet? And my first question was, what if we extended the life of a vehicle by 1 or 2 or 3 years? Will you eventually be able to provide the numbers, quantify what that would mean?
Thank you, Vice Deputy Mayor. And through you, Mr. Mayor, I think there was a couple of questions there, but the first one regarding seasonal use, we are very challenged in Saugeen Shores. We require more vehicles during the summer season for our summer students, for grass cutting, cleaning, and that kind of thing. So we will not just look to the county for a partnership, but at anyone that we can co-lease or look for some efficiency there. Your next question with regards to why the number? How many is the number? And my response to that would be, we provide a very high level of service to our residents, and we need many vehicles to do that. And if a resident was to challenge that, I'd say, well, we can reduce the number slightly, but service levels reduce greatly when we reduce the tools that our staff need to do their job. So an example I'd use would be, right now we respond very quickly to the needs of the community, and if there's a concern come into staff, we respond same day or next day. If you reduce the tools we have to get to within the community, it might be 2 or 3 days to respond to that same concern.
I asked, but are you close to being able to quantify, like if you extended the life of vehicles from 7 years to 8 years to 10, whatever that may be, at some point will you be able to quantify that?
Yes, we will, and we will report annually on each vehicle and the cost of each vehicle per year on a total cost basis. Right now, we can easily say we instead of a 10-year replacement, we'll take an 11-year replacement, and you'd save about 11 or 10% on the capital costs of purchasing and replacing that vehicle. But your operating expense might go up to maintain that vehicle for an extra year. So, and they go hand in hand. So yes and no. We can easily report on extending some life cycles, but we can't accurately report right now on what the operating costs might be associated with extending life cycles. Very soon, once our software is fully implemented. And I will say, in our replacement schedule, we don't have one life cycle assigned to a vehicle. It comes into our fleet in a high need A usage type environment, and it spends 4, 5, 6 years there. And then it gets transferred to a sort of medium use, moderate kilometers, little lighter lifespan, and it'll spend 4 or 5 years there, and then it'll transition to a seasonal use as a C, and be end of life there. And we really evaluate each asset year to year on whether it can give us another summer or whether we should be replaced.
Just the last question I had was about the fleet reserve deficit, Phil. Yeah, with the additional $50,000 we approved in our budget last January, and I think the plan is to add $50,000 in 2021 again. At what point are we caught up with our fleet reserve deficit? I believe the position we're in, and I'm not sure the exact number. When is the catch-up date?
Until we implement some of the cost-saving initiatives, we won't know for sure, but during the budget, we'll have a better report and be able to identify when those are. The idea of the fleet reserve is that we do run a deficit sometimes on years where there's a high demand for replacements, and we're doing everything we can to space out those replacements more accurately.
Further questions or comments from members of the committee? Thanks very much, Phil. This is an excellent report. A lot of work went into this, and a significant document. I think that we heard during the 2019 budget that we were, as the Vice Deputy Mayor pointed out, that we were not adequately funding that reserve in order to keep up with all the demands that we had. But it's encouraging to hear from the administration that we're not only going to try to catch up to that deficit by spending more money, that we're going to take a look at the fleet and try to find efficiencies to the cost will continue to go up, but so too will we look for savings and try to make those two numbers meet in the middle. So I think that's an excellent approach. It's finding efficiencies in the municipal administration, which is de rigueur today, and I think something that we want to do every day. So that's good work, and we appreciate it very much. You've heard the recommendation. All in favor? That's carried. All right. That moves us then on to the second Protective Services staff report, and it's on the renewal of fire dispatch agreement, and the director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For over 20 years, Owen Sound Police Services has dispatched our emergency services in Saugeen Shores for us. They're also the 911 call center, which is advantageous to us as it's a local service with some local knowledge. Not only are they the most cost-effective dispatch option, but they also dispatch our Saugeen Shores Police Service, which has some value in interoperability. This is just renewing the existing lease with, dispatch agreement with no changes to existing.
Okay, it's recommended that Council pass a bylaw to authorize the Mayor and Clerk to sign the fire dispatch agreement between the Owen Sound Police Services and the Town of Saugeen Shores. Questions or comments from committee members? Being none, all in favor? That's carried. All right, that moves us then on to 7.5, Community Services, Parks and Recreation, and we have 3 staff reports, and the first one is on the waiving of fees for the Grand Fondo Lake Huron, and the Director of Community Services.
Thank you. Grand Fondo is once again being hosted in Saugeen Shores this year, and it's under the Saugeen Memorial Hospital Foundation. It's a great fundraiser for the hospital. Our policy allows staff to waive fees for facilities if it is a project that we are directly fundraising for. Although the funds raised are not allocated towards a town project, they are being assigned to a project that benefits the greater community. Therefore, the town staff are recommending that Council consider waiving the facility fee for this event at the Coliseum. And I've included the financial impact in your report.
Thank you. It's recommended that Council approves waiving the facility rental fees for the Grand Fondo Lake Huron fundraising event organized by the Saugeen Memorial Hospital Foundation at the Southampton Coliseum, scheduled for August 17, 18, 2019. Questions or comments from committee members? The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, on our report here, it says that we'll be holding it at the Coliseum. Message to our director, a question to our director: will the Coliseum be finished in time for them to do this?
Yeah, our planning stages have been focused on the annex side. Within the last week or two, we've had clarification that it's a very good possibility that the Coliseum will be available for the event.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. All right, that moves us on to the second staff report on Parks, Rules, and Regulations Bylaw, the Director.
Thank you. I present to you this evening an all-encompassing parks bylaw. We've not had one that has included the active and passive parks, our trails, as well as our waterfront. A considerable amount of input and investigation and research has gone into the development of this bylaw. Obviously, it's staff's goal to ensure that everyone continues to enjoy themselves and is safe within our parks and has a positive experience. Certainly, although some clauses may be restricting in nature, they may come across that way, it is staff's opinion that the bylaw will be enforced when there is cause for concern or injury within our parks. And this evening, I present to you the final product.
It's recommended that Council pass a bylaw to regulate parks within the town of Saugeen Shores. Questions or comments from members of the committee? Councillor Schreider.
Thank you, and through you, thanks very much for this, Jane. I know it's long overdue, and it's a lot of work in order to get the information together. It's a very healthy bylaw that you have here. Just a few questions, I guess, for clarification. 2.7, where it talks about tents being installed or erected, temporary or permanent tent structures. So the question is, with regards to sometimes at our soccer complex, ball teams are down at the beach as well, is that families do pitch tents for shade or rain purposes. Does this bylaw permit that activity?
So this bylaw still allows that to be continued. What this clause really enforces is that those that want to pitch tents for lodging purposes, so that we have the control to be able to say not permitted.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And just one more follow-up question. 2.12, where you list dates of when the active parks would permit activity on them, the 30th of October or the 1st of May. And I guess, is it risky to put dates in there, whereas it's dependent on weather and turf conditions?
Yeah, so we had quite a bit of conversation over this. Historically, we've always gone by those dates, and our groups acknowledge those dates. They're also communicated with the groups in such that if there's an opportunity to get in earlier, we certainly have the opportunity to do that. By having these dates, it has become embedded in our users, so they certainly have been more cooperative when they know that those dates exist. But we continue to have our user group meetings where we talk about those dates, and we have a walkthrough as well with our groups, so lots of communication that occurs, and we acknowledge the fact that sometimes they can get on earlier than that date.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Jane, for putting this together. It's obvious that a great deal of work and thought has gone into this document, and it is very comprehensive. When it comes to enforcement, I mean, we always talk about bylaws, and if without enforcing bylaws, then there's not really much point in having bylaws. And this is a great document for those law-abiding people that want to know what they can and can't do. They have a document they can refer to, and they understand what the bounds are. But has there been much thought to gearing up or driving up the enforcement side of it? Because right now it's much viewed by the public when it comes to breaking of bylaws that it's a complaint-driven system, and if nobody complains, the community on social media gets up in arms about whether it's garbage cans or whether it's littering or whether it's dogs on the beach or whatever it might be. So we have one bylaw officer, and I know he's pretty busy, and I know he does the best job that he can do. Has there been any thought to perhaps deputizing other bylaw officers during the park periods, probably the summer months, so that we can make sure that these bylaws are followed, because we can all come up with instances where we've seen people doing things that they're not supposed to do.
I think in the case of this bylaw, and certainly this bylaw was created with input from the bylaw officer, and he was thankful to have something that he could at least have something that supports him when he's enforcing these bylaws. I think in this case, it's new to us. It's the first summer. Let us work through this year, and if there is a need for additional bylaw enforcement, then that certainly will be a discussion during budget deliberations. But at this point, I think it's fair enough to say it's difficult to predict that at this point.
Further questions or comments from members of the committee? The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Jane. Jane, I just wanted page 7 of 9. I sent a note to you, I think a few weeks ago about this one, and it's allow animals, no person shall allow a domestic animal to run at large within the park unless in a designated area. And I think it would I think it would be a smart move for people who actually pay attention to the bylaw with animals, and they should, is that the off-leash doggy park is located at, and secondly, designated, because the statement says unless in a designated area, so people won't maybe necessarily know where those designated areas are. Designated waterfront dog areas are the following. I just think it would help clarify so that the people who have questions about where they can and cannot take their pets, that it's very clear in the bylaw where they can, because you say it in a designated area, but I don't know that some people know where the designated areas are. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to see that included in the bylaw. I just think it helped to clarify it. It's not a huge deal, but I just think it would help clarify for dog owners. Jane?
I think that the administration can probably make changes from this point before it comes back to council. So certainly that can be considered. Are there further questions? Yeah, Councillor Maya.
Thank you, Mr. Once again, and that last question actually spurred something on in my mind too that I thought about when I was reading this. Is I have a couple of dogs, and I know lots of other people, friends of mine that have dogs, and certainly the areas where I walk my dog and sometimes the outlying trails in the area and things, we quite often walk off leash, and my dogs are under control at all times, and most of the people that we run across that we come on the trails, quite often their dogs are off leash as well, and the principle behind that isn't that because we don't want to have our dog on a leash necessarily or encumber them. It's that when two dogs meet on a trail, if two dogs are on a leash, they're more likely to fight. If two dogs meet on a trail and they're both off leash, they're very less likely to fight. They meet each other and they agree on their own terms. So I agree with the Vice Deputy Mayor that we should have certain areas where your animals should be under control at all times as opposed to necessarily leashed at all times. Because there's a slight difference, but under control is really the operative term I think we're looking for. And I would like to see that.
Just for clarity, we have that's going to be part of the animal control bylaw, not the parks bylaw. So if you wanted to address those issues, that would be the bylaw to address it in rather than this one, just for clarity. Possibly, and the director's heard the comments. Maybe she has a comment.
Yeah, and I just remind council that we do have a dog park bylaw as well. So this does not supersede that bylaw at this point. We have 3 other parks bylaws that exist: Coulter Park at Cenotaph Park, and the dog bylaw and the dog park. What we'd like to do is, it's not our intention to repel those policies right now, those bylaws, but to leave those in enforcement until such time we've lived through this bylaw for a full year. And my report does indicate that we'll come back as there may be some changes in accuracy and relevance, and another component may be even our outdoor sports complex, the Lamont Sports Park, may dictate some changes that we may see within this too within a year.
Get to the Vice Deputy Mayor.
Well, to clarify though, Mr. Mayor, so Jane, that when we see this in 2 weeks, I requested that those designated areas be included, correct?
Yeah, we'll leave that with the administration, and we'll see what comes back. If if your council's not satisfied with whatever comes back, council can make adjustments to the bylaw at regular council. Further comments or questions? I have an issue with the bylaw. Section 5.4, park hours. All parks shall close at midnight local time and shall remain closed until 6 a.m. local time unless otherwise posted. Effectively, all parks, including the beach, across the municipality would close at midnight and reopen at 6 a.m. And anyone found remaining in those areas during those times would be subject to the fine in the bylaw. I really don't think that's necessary. If you go to Section 1 of the bylaw, we have an awful lot of ways to prevent people from creating problems in the parks. One point, no person shall indulge in any disorderly, dangerous, riotous, boisterous, violent, threatening, or illegal conduct, or use profane or abusive language, or create a nuisance in any way, interfere with the use of or enjoyment of the park. We restrict verbal assault, physical harm, use of alcohol, harassment, threats, vandalism, theft, contravention of bylaws, possession of weapons. We've really covered our bases in Section 1. there's really not much you could do in a park at any time of the day or night, that we couldn't say, that was, well, frankly, that almost nothing you could do wouldn't necessarily fit into one of those concepts if the bylaw enforcement officer wanted to, or felt the need to address what you're doing. I don't think we need to close the parks. And I'm concerned about the comment in the report, and I understand what the director is saying, but this idea that, and that's one of those clauses that seems restricting in nature. Although some clauses may seem restricting in nature, it's staff's opinion that the bylaw will be enforced when there's cause or concern for injury. So in other words, unevenly, right? And in my view, you should never pass a bylaw that you don't intend to enforce evenly all the time. You shouldn't, if you believe it is wrong to do something, then it's wrong all the time. But in my view, it is not wrong all the time to be on the beach after midnight, or in Davie Park, or in Jubilee Park, or Halliwell Park, or whichever park. There's nothing fundamentally wrong about a member of public being in the park, and so it shouldn't be in the bylaw. We've said that there's certain types of behavior we want to accept, certain types of things you shouldn't be doing, and that should be true 24 hours a day, and not create a curfew for all the parks, and particularly the beach. I fear that when you do things like that, it becomes an opportunity for certain people in the community, namely young people. Maybe it's a grudge I carry over from being a teenager, but where young people get picked on for being in a place where older people don't want them to be. And I think we shouldn't be creating a scenario where that's going to happen. I know our bylaw enforcement officer, and I know that he's a pretty judicious guy and wouldn't get into that. But what this does is it creates an opportunity to drag him in and to effectively create problems for those people just for being in a place at a particular time. So my view is it ought to be removed. Otherwise, I think the bylaw is very good, and I want to thank the director and her staff for all the work that she's done on it. And so I put it to council. That's a change that I would like to see when it comes back. Are there any other comments? The Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I totally agree with that comment. I was talking with Councillor Schreider earlier before council began tonight about that exact one. The timelines are a little draconian, so if we could have that part removed, then I would be able to support this motion.
Are there any further comments from any members? So the recommendation is really to send this forward to council, and we can address it again at that time, and we'll see what the administration comes back with at council. All in favor of the recommendation? Opposed? That's carried. So that moves us then on to the third report, which is a staff report on the MOU for waterfront revitalization and the director.
Yes, tonight I present to you a memorandum of understanding to advance the conversations in the development of the waterfront lands in partnership with Mr. Pierre Danini. The MOU confirms that Mr. Danini will include food, commercial, and recreational opportunities within the development, as well as a continued consideration for a train feature. There is no proposal for any residential inclusions. The municipality will consider a 50-year agreement provided on a solid long-term strategies provided by Mr. Danini, and the capital investment warrants such an agreement. I remind Council that this is not a binding agreement and does not commit Council to any approvals regarding the said lands. Staff will ensure Council is informed as plans develop in timely intervals.
Thank you. It's recommended the Council approve a bylaw to authorize a memorandum of understanding with Mr. Pierre Danini to signify the advancement of negotiations for the Port Elgin waterfront development. Questions or comments from members of the committee? The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I look forward to this development. The one question I have, though, is the 50-year land lease agreement with our other renters down there. Will this be causing a problem when they've asked for longer leases and we've limited them to specific time periods?
Our one particular renter I can tell you is on DFO lands, and therefore DFO dictates the extension of that agreement, and because we are the parent agreement with them, we only have a 5-year lease agreement, as do they. The other land lease agreement does not come up for renewal for another, I believe it's 2 years, maybe 3 years. At such time, they may ask for an extension as well. And typically when we negotiate with those agreements, there's stipulation that they give us a plan on, they provide a plan on their plans for the facility and upgrades. So at that time, we'll have opportunity for those discussions.
I think just to add to that, I think that if this passes this evening, those property owners or those business owners who have operations on lands that we do control the lease length of should take this as a signal from council that we would be willing to entertain longer lease agreements on the caveat that major investments are made in our property. If where that's going to happen, we would certainly entertain that. So I think if this passes, I think that would be a clear signal from council. Further comments, the Vice Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, and I just wanted to echo your comments, and any current business or business wanting to entertain a plan, current business wanting to invest in a big way at the Port Elgin waterfront, and absolutely, let's take a look at a longer term lease, and but come to the plate. And I just wanted to thank Pierre Dinini, a very successful businessman in town, and although I haven't seen the plans yet, I know there's a memorandum of understanding. Anytime we see, there was a comment about length of lease. You have a developer, investor wanting to invest multi-million dollars into the redevelopment of our Port Elgin waterfront. That's a good news story, and I certainly look forward to see the MOU, the memorandum of understanding, and if it's a long-term lease agreement for multi-million-dollar investment, I certainly have to look at that in a favorable way. So I just want to commend Mr. Dinini for coming forth, and I'm really excited about this. I think there's some great potential down at the Port Elgin waterfront. So really looking forward to seeing the MOU.
Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too would just like to express my appreciation for all the work that's gone into this, both with the proponent and with the town. This is very exciting news. We've been looking at a declining infrastructure on that side of the beach for a long time, and a lot of hard feelings in the community, and just a dilapidated state of what's going on down there. So this really signals a turning point to me in what's going on at the Port Elgin Main Beach, and having a significant investment, and what I'm hearing here about a mentioned or a communal center and food and entertainment center, it's really exciting, and I look very much forward to enjoying 50 years more at the beach.
Further comments or questions from members? Yep, thank you very much. We're looking forward to seeing this progress. All right, so all in favor? That's carried. Okay, so that moves us then on to communications and petitions for Committee of the Whole action, and we have a draft motion on Bill 108, and take direction from the committee. Councillor Grace.
Well, I would support us moving to support this. The motion is asking for the province to fully consult with municipalities and to hear their concerns about upholding their ability to make decisions in the best interest of their communities. And that's, I think, what's at the heart of this motion, and I think that's a good thing, especially considering our review tonight and our staff.
Can I take that as a motion to support, Councillor? Yes. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Rich. All right, further discussion? I will just note for your information, this exact resolution was passed by the County of Bruce about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So it is already circulating around local municipalities, and there is broad support in our region for these sentiments. If there's nothing further, then all in favor? That's carried. All right, that moves us then on to communications, petitions for information. There's 3 items there. Is there any comments or questions on any one of those? Seeing none, then I'll move on then to report of department heads, and there's 4 items there. The first one is an information report on Bike Month. Is there any comments from the administration on that? Questions from council? The second one is, sorry, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, I will be getting heavily involved in Bike Month. I believe it's very important to Saugeen Shores. I see we have a full calendar of events being planned throughout the month. I'd also like to take this opportunity to remind Council that we recently received our bronze designation as a bike-friendly community. And in order to move towards our next designation, which is the silver level, I would like to ask Council that we direct the striking committee to form a new bike-friendly committee to help guide us to that silver designation. We have just put out a call to our community for volunteers to be a part of this group. So the time is right. This is the month to begin. After all, a bike-friendly town is a happy town and a town that people want to come to. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Further comments or questions? Nothing further on that one. Then the second item is the information report on the Health and Wellness Fair and Play Fun Run. Any questions or comments? No. The third one then is an information report on the 2018 waste diversion. Does the director have any comments?
Just quickly through you, I just wanted to add to this. Between Thursday and today, Infrastructure Development Services met, and one of the things that we're working on together is coming back to answer Deputy Mayor's question about fees and the unsorted versus sorted. So this is just putting more fuel behind our fire as to reviewing those fees. So you'll see a report coming back in the next couple months on us on midterm analysis of fees, mostly because
Further comments on this one? Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Amanda, I see that the trend here is towards the sort of the logarithmic use of our landfill site and the estimated landfill life going from last year at 19, this year 15. And it's understandable. Our town's growing. All the construction is cited in the report. I've understood from previous conversations that it takes about 10 years to certify a new landfill site, or in the case of where we are, an extension of our landfill site. At what point in time do we pull the trigger and start putting numbers in our budget for certifying some of the neighboring lands to our existing landfill site for expansion?
I think 2 years ago we bought additional land, so we have the land beside us. It's all owned by us effectively. There's the Cook Farm beside, but we do believe we have enough land for that expansion. That came out of the expansion reserve. I think it was 2016, or it might have been just before I came in 2017, sort of that winter. We're doing the waste master plan this year, and the RFP is going to be going out next week and closing in within a month's time to have the consultant doing that expansion study. That would be done before 2020.
Further comments? I think the important thing to note on this is that the administration and council have seen this coming, that we knew that we were going to be using more landfill, which is why we have approved the waste management master plan to move forward in 2019. This is one of those many things that we're doing this year in order to accommodate and facilitate appropriate growth in the municipality. And I think that council, due to our growth, it shouldn't be a surprise that we may need to expect to have to make more investments in our readiness to accept more waste as the community is growing very quickly. So, but this is one of those things we're planning. We'll come up with a plan, and we'll have an approach, and then we'll execute that approach. So, so looking forward to seeing the waste management master plan take shape. The final one then is the information report on the breakwater, and the director.
Yes, thank you. If you were away from town last week, you may not have heard this announcement, but our media did a great job of getting the word out. But Port Elgin has been identified with 10 other harbors to have work done this as quickly as this fall, which is quite exciting, on the South Breakwater Extension and the South Breakwater. This is a great good news story, and one that we are extremely excited about. We don't anticipate it's going to impact our operations at the harbor. And the next process is that it'll be this council that determines how we want to proceed with a walking apparatus on the top of that, which will be at our expense. But DFO is graciously working with us to ensure that the plans enable enable us to add that extension.
Comments from members of the committee? Obviously an outstanding investment in our community and a very significant investment from the federal government. It's going to be very positive. I did want to make sure to say thank you to our Member of Parliament, Ben Lobb, who did an awful lot of work on behalf of the municipality to ensure that this funding flowed to the community. He unfortunately wasn't at the event in Bayfield where the announcement was made, but he certainly was a major player. And I also want to say thanks to the administration, and particularly the director, for the work that she has done in making sure that this funding was secured. I know that this has been going on for a couple of years, a lot of back and forth with TFO, and that work has paid off in a big way. And so we've now had two big reports on this council agenda for the Port Elgin beach area, showing how we're going to make significant improvements and investments in that area going forward. So there's a lot of reason to be positive and optimistic about what's going to happen down there in the coming couple of years. So if there's nothing further, then we will take announcements by members and the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, for anybody who has not heard, Saugeen District Secondary School will be presenting Meredith Willson's The Music Man, a highly entertaining musical. It starts Wednesday night at 7, runs Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 7 o'clock, and then we have two shows on Saturday, a matinee at 1:30 and the final presentation at 7. Tickets are $15, available at Kathy's Flowers and Treasures and through the office at Saugeen District Secondary School. So if you haven't had a chance, these are fantastic young students. One of them was mentioned earlier, Gracie Ann Swarbrick. She's in the play. We have some great talent up the school, so if you can, come on up and get it. Also, tomorrow night there will be an education forum report being held at the Southampton Museum beginning at 7 o'clock to discuss the changes to education and how they will be affecting our schools in the area. So if you get a chance, come on by the Southampton Museum tomorrow night at 7. Our local MPP is supposed to be there with a great panel of learned people. So if you have any questions, come on out and ask.
The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended an event last Saturday morning. It was the Southport Horticulture Society. My wife's a member of that group. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is, that organization does a whole lot of work in this community that maybe people don't realize they do. They maintain a fair number of gardens around Saugeen Shores on a volunteer basis. And this is just a shout out to the Southport Horticulture Society for the great work they do in our community. And they had a very successful plant sale. I think they broke some revenue records last Saturday morning, so it was a great event to attend. I wanted to thank Phil. I didn't get there, Phil, because I was at the plant sale. But the Young Fireman's Day, my grandson participated in that and had just a whale of a time. It was rainy day, but I saw the videos and he was carrying the hose, putting the fire out and stuff. But the kids I saw in the video, they were having a great time, and a lot of work goes into that event. So I just wanted to thank you for you and the volunteer firefighters, for organizing that day. The kids really enjoy it. So thank you.
Councillor Schreider.
Thank you. Through you, I also was at the Fireman's Breakfast, so hats off to that crew. It was great, as it usually is every year. Just a few things. The Saugeen Rail Trail launched their new website last week, so www.saugeenrailtrail.ca. You guys should all check it out. It's just a great new refresh of the website. That group has really been working hard with that, so it's great. Congratulations to the Northport Senior Band. They won gold at Nationals in Ottawa 2 weeks ago, so I was actually there when they came into town, escorted by the fire truck and the police. That was a pretty cool thing to see. Those kids were just ecstatic at that, and we were standing at the school when they came in. So it was just a great night. And then the last thing I want to mention is last Friday night, the Lady Slow Pitch League actually had a kickoff party. These are a bunch of passionate ladies, I'll tell you. There's probably about 150 ladies in the room. We were there for about 3 hours, and they fundraised for the new park just over $3,000. So it was just fantastic, and we're looking forward to doing more as that up for a league. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Smith, no. Councillor Rich, Councillor Grace, Councillor Carr, Councillor Mayette.
One thing quickly, thank you, Mr. Mayor, that I currently sit, and I hopefully will continue to sit on the airport committee, and the dedicated group of volunteers have been working very hard to get that airport up and running. The grass is cut, and finally the weather has been slightly cooperating, and there's been some drying out, and the airport is open for business. So it's a jewel of a facility we have out there, and if you've never been out for a while, you should really go for a visit and have a look around.
Thank you. And just one thing from me, on the 16th, Council had a tour of the water treatment plant and sewage treatment plants in Southampton. And during that event, during that tour, Aqua presented us with a plaque and reminded us that they this year have been 25 years with the town of Saugeen Shores. And I just wanted to say thank you to Aqua for 25 years of partnership with the town, providing outstanding high-quality water to the people of Saugeen Shores. It's really been a beneficial partnership both to us and I hope for them. So congratulations to them on that. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Schreider. All in favor. We'll reconvene at 10 after the hour.